Hi guys, I am Viha and I'm currently studying in SVCE, and today we are going to talk about break and continue statements in Python. So in this video, we are going to talk about what are break and continue statements. We're going to talk about the break statement in detail with an example. We're also going to talk about the continue statement in detail with an example. And we're going to talk about the difference between the break and continue statements. We're going to also talk about when and how to use the break and continue statement. So first of all, today we'll be exploring the fascinating concept of break and continue statements. So these are two very important statements for the flow control of a program in Python. These statements are essential tools in any programmer's toolbox. They allow us to make more efficient and effective codes. So first of all, what are break and continue statements? So in Python, break and continue statements are two powerful tools that allow the programmers to control the flow of their code or program. So these statements can be used to either interrupt the normal execution of the loop or jump to another section of the code or to skip over a particular iteration in a loop. So the break statement is generally used to exit a loop prematurely, and the continue statement is used to skip over certain iterations of a loop. Both of these statements are extremely useful in situations where you need to control the flow of your code based on very specific conditions, or if you're stuck in infinite loops. So first we're going to talk about the break statement. So the break statement is a powerful tool in Python programming that allows you to exit a loop prematurely. And when an interpreter encounters a break statement, it immediately exits the loop. So it comes out of the loop and it starts executing the statement that comes after the loop. So it executes the code that comes after the loop. And this can be extremely useful in situations where you need to terminate a loop early based on certain conditions. An example for this is when you're looking through a list of items for a specific value, you can use break statement to exit the loop as soon as you find the particular value. Next is an example of the break statement. So in this program, the first line of code, while true, creates an infinite loop because we're already stating that whatever condition is going to be given, it's going to always be true. And the next statement will give you an input. It'll ask you to type an input, type your name. So as long as you type an input that does not, in quotes, say your name, the loop is going to keep on running. So when the input you type is equal to your name, it's going to come out of the loop. It's going to execute the break statement and then come out of the loop and then print the thank you note for you. So in this particular program, the break statement will be executed only when the if condition is true. So once the break statement is executed, the execution moves out of the loop to the next statement, which in this case is the print statement with a thank you message in it. So next we are going to talk about the continue statement. So the continue statement is again another flow control statement in Python. It is used to skip over certain parts of a loop and continue with the next iteration. So it is often used in conjunction with conditional statements to selectively skip certain iterations based on some conditions. So in this, when the program reaches a continue statement, the program execution immediately jumps back to the start of the loop and reevaluates the loop's conditions. So it comes out of the particular iteration and goes to the next iteration and checks the next condition. So for an example of continue statement, we can take the example of printing all even numbers between 1 to 10 or n number of numbers. So here we can use a for loop and a continue statement to skip over the odd numbers. So here in the for loop, we are reading an integer I in the range 1 to 11. So in the if statement, we are checking if the modulus of the given number is not equal to 0. So here the continuous statement is executed only when the if statement turns out to be true. So only when the modulus of the checked number is not equal to 0, the continuous statement is executed. And when the continuous statement is executed, the print statement is excluded and it goes back to the for loop to the next iteration. So in this program, if the if statement does not evaluate it true, then the continuous statement is executed and the particular iteration is skipped. So now we're going to see the difference between the break and continuous statements. So basically in the break statement, it terminates the entire loop when the break statement is encountered. And in the continuous statement, only that particular iteration is terminated. So in the break statement, it comes out of the entire loop, while in the continuous statement, it comes out of that particular iteration, but not the loop. So in break statement, it exits the loop entirely and continues with the next statement, which is there after the loop. In the continuous statement, it skips the remaining code of the current iteration and proceeds to the next iteration of the loop. Does not come out of the loop completely. So here are two examples. With the example in break statement, we're going to see the same as we have seen above. So the break statement is executed only if the if statement turns out to be true. While here in this example of the continuous statement, the continuous statement is executed only when the name typed is Joe. So only if the if statement evaluates to true in this case, then the continuous statement is executed and it goes on to the next line of code, which is PWD, and enter the password, which is an input code again. And again here, the break statement is executed only if the typed password is SWORD in double quotes. So only if the if statement turns out to be true, the second statement here, that is the break statement, is executed and you get the access granted message that is printed to you. So next we're going to see saying when to use the break and continue statements. So break and continue statements are most useful in situation where we want to exit the loop early or skip over certain iterations, as we have seen above. So for example, like I said before, it's when we are searching through a large list of specific values, we can use the break statement to exit the loop early and as soon as we find the value we are looking for. This can save a lot of time and processing power compared to searching through the entire list and then printing each of the content in the list or the items in the list and then finding out or getting the value you are searching for. So similarly, if we are iterating through a list and want to skip over certain values that meet a certain condition, we can use continuous statement to move on to the next iteration without executing any code for the current value. So in continuous statement, it just comes out of that particular iteration, skips that particular iteration and goes to the next iteration. So this is very useful for filtering out unwanted values and optimizing our code. So to conclude, we have to tell that the break and continue statements are very powerful tools in Python. Then they allow us to control the flow of our code very easily. So the break statement, as mentioned above, is used to exit a loop with a certain condition is met, while the continue statement is used to skip over certain iterations of a loop. So understanding how and when to use these statements can make your code more efficient and easier to read. So it is very important to remember the break and continue statement should be used sparingly and only when necessary. When used more, it can be very confusing and the running of the code can become hard and very hard to understand and also maintain. So when used correctly, they can greatly improve the functionality of any program. So with this, I would like to conclude this presentation and thank you and have a great day.